Excellent. Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for participating. We're kind of spread out everywhere, but we'll make it work. We'll start with introductions. I'll call the voting members, and I'll turn it over to Brian to cover everyone else. I'm Dale Stein, Chair. Dave?
Dave Raff, voting member.
Hey, Dale, we can't hear you.
Dale, looks like we lost your audio already.
Try it again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Video's a little. Oh, all right. Darren?
Aaron Hickling, voting member.
Scott? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yourself, please. And I'm going to turn it over to you. Down.
Might be having a little bit of challenge there with your audio, Dale. I think, but
I shut the video off. I shut the video off, and I hope that.
Yeah. I can. I can take over. So, Scott Ryan. Okay, Scott, you are there, right? Can you hear us? Can we hear you? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Erica.
Erica Goodman, voting member.
Great, thank you. So we do have a full quorum, Dale. Hopefully we can work that out with your audio and your video. I don't know if we need to maybe switch to your phone rather than the computer, but I'll go through. I will go through our advisory members and staff that are on hand today, and then welcome everybody else for joining. Starting off with advisory members, Ag and Markets, I believe I saw Deputy Commissioner Elizabeth Walters in the room in Albany. Elizabeth?
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. How about anyone on from Cornell Cows?
Val Schul from Cornell Cows.
Good morning, Val. Welcome. And Cornell Cooperative Extension?
Dan Welch, Executive
welcome.
Director. Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, since it's my first meeting, I'm the Executive Director in Cayuga County, and this is my first meeting.
Well, Dan, I want to welcome you to the Soil and Water Conservation Committee. Dan will be the new representative from Cornell Cooperative Extension, succeeding Elizabeth Claypool. As Dan mentioned, the Executive Director from Cayuga County Soil and Water Conservation, I'm sorry, from Cornell Cooperative Extension, my mistake. But Dan, welcome to the committee, and thank you so much for joining us today and being there in Syracuse. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, how about Conservation District Employees Association, CDEA? Anybody representing CDEA today? Okay. How about DEC? Okay. Department of Health?
Hello, everybody. Paul Kaczmarzyk, Department of Health.
Good morning, Paul. Welcome. Department of State?
Kate Black on. Used to be Kate Hogle. Changed my name right before maternity leave.
All right. Well, Kate, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Meeting is being recorded.
I heard from Steve Shaw from ESF. How about NRCS?
Blake here. I believe Paula has joined us as well.
All right. Well, Blake and Paula, welcome. Getting a little bit of feedback. An echo here. Okay, we'll move on to, I think most of which are in the Syracuse office. But Victor?
Victor Giacomo, State Committee Regional Staff for Western New York.
Welcome, Vic. PJ?
Hi, PJ Emmerich, Region 2 AEA for Central New York and the Finger Lakes.
Welcome, PJ. Ryan?
Hey, Brian Cunningham, good morning. Field staff for the State Committee, North Country.
Good morning, Ryan. Scott?
Morning, everyone. Scott Fickbaum, Regional Staff for Central New York, State Committee.
Good morning, Scott. Greg?
Morning, everybody. Greg Albrecht, AIM Program Coordinator and Nutrient Management Specialist for the State Committee in Ag and Markets.
Morning, Greg. Ron?
Good morning, Ron Bush, CNMP Specialist for the State Committee.
Morning, Ron. Brendan?
He's getting work done.
Okay, sounds good. Tyler?
Good morning, everybody. Tyler Knapp, Program Analyst for the State Committee.
Morning, Tyler. Jennifer has a sick child today. She let us know she won't be in attendance, but we'll cover her the agenda today. Ben Luskin.
Good morning, Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA for the Hudson Valley and Long Island.
Good morning, Ben. Lauren, is Lauren on the line? Don't believe so. Bethany.
Morning, everybody. Bethany Bizdu, Ag Non-Point Source Program Manager.
Good morning, Bethany. Tim Clark.
Good morning. This is Tim Clark. I'm the engineer for the State Committee.
Morning, Tim. Abigail.
Good morning, everyone. Abigail Edwards, Excelsior Policy Fellow with the State Committee.
Morning, Abigail. Melissa? Melissa with us?
Melissa is in the other room. She's going to call in with her computer.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Just also want to welcome all of our conservation districts, all of our other partners on the line today. And, you all have an opportunity to take your phone off mute, engage in the discussions today, as well as, the reports at the so thank you all. Dave, we've got a little bit of a change in the agenda, but we're also going to be hearing from Tyler Knapp, who's going to give us kind of a year-end review, a State Committee Ag and Markets 2022 program completion report, just in between the Ag Non-Point Source and the CRF items on the agenda. Again, just welcome everybody, and just as a reminder, this is a public open meeting. It is being recorded. The recording in the minutes will be presented at a later date and available for viewing for those who weren't able to make it here today. So, Dale, back to you.
Can you hear and see me, Brian?
Yes. Let's hope it stays that way. Don't move anything.
I got my phone in my left hand and my computer in my right.
Very good.
All right. We're gonna move on to correspondence. You got anything, Brian?
I do not have any correspondence to share today. No. But I do have a budget update I can give.
I'll go back to reviewing minutes right after that.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So just wanted to let everybody know that Governor Hochul released their executive budget early in February. And I'm just going to go through the highlights of the Environmental Protection Fund. Again, a very strong budget proposal. We'll continue to elevate conservation programs and certainly district capacity. And just to let everybody know, the budget proposal for the EPF was maintained at $400 million and also expands the number of programs that districts offer to farms and communities. For example, there are $21 million for farmland protection, $20 million for the Ag Non-Point Source program. That does include $2 million for Cornell's IPM and $500,000 for CC of Suffolk County, as well as $250,000 for Cornell the MEP program. $16 million for soil and water conservation districts. So this is a proposed increase of $1.5 million over fiscal year 23 levels. $19.5 million for invasive species, and $14.75 million for CRF, which includes $500,000 for the Cornell Soil Health Program, $23.5 million for Ocean and Great Lakes, $22 million for Water Quality Improvement Program, and $16.5 million for the Waterfront Revitalization Program. So again, just wanted to provide that brief update. This did go out to all our soil and water districts earlier in February as well, and certainly we'll post these numbers for the minutes. And a little bit of a reduction over last year's levels for CRF, but I think that's more than appropriate given all the funding that will be available for climate initiatives in the near future, both from the USDA funds as well as Bond Act, and really good to see continued commitment and increases in the soil and water district line, which is our best funding resource and tool to continue to build district capacity. Really, again, strong EPF. And of course, all of this is subject to modification and approval by the legislature by the April 1st deadline. So, stay tuned, and we'll have continued updates once the budget is approved.
Thank you, Brian. We're going to go back and review and approve minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Scott? Dave?
Yes.
Approved. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda.
I just wanted to let you know that Joanne Landau has joined. I was having trouble getting in, so I'm just doing the phone line.
Thank you for participating.
Yep.
Next on our agenda is the Ag Non-Point Source with Bethany and Tyler.
Thanks, Dale. So I'll do a quick program status update just to give folks an idea of where we are at with round 28, as well as the pending release of round 29. So currently with round 28, all of the contracts have been submitted to our fiscal management division to start the process of getting executed. So hopefully we'll be able to work through those as quickly as possible and get them out to districts for review and signature as soon as possible. The round 28 RFP has been given initial approval by our counsel's office. And once we are able to finalize the release dates and subsequently the application due date, we will get formal approval from council on that RFP, and we will be able to get it released and out to districts. That's just a very brief program status. Tyler will get more into the weeds on some more details and program accomplishments. Are there any questions on round 28 or round 29? I guess hearing none, we can move into the amendment portion of the Ag Non-Point Source section. So we received a total of 21 amendments to be considered today at this meeting. So the way they are going to be presented today is going to be a little bit different than how we typically review the amendments. because we've received such a high volume of requests, with the time extension requests, I have divided those into two categories. The first is a recommend for approval category, and the second is a discussion required category. So for the amendments that are in the recommend approval category, I will provide some general comments about those amendments and ask for one approval from the voting members for all of those amendments. For the remaining amendments in the discussion category, we will go through those individually as we normally would, and I will ask for separate approvals for each amendment. So what you're seeing on the screen is our, summary report of all the amendments that were submitted for this month. The first is just for the committee's information. This is a staff-approved amendment that was submitted by Cattaraugus County. They are requesting a landowner change for Round 26 contract. There was a change in ownership, and the new owners would still like to continue moving forward with the project. This amendment was approved by Victor DiGiacomo, Region 1 AEA, so we will get that processed and recorded. So moving down a little bit on the screen, the first time extension category that we come to is the recommend approval section. There are 14 amendments that are recommended for approval today. The full amendment packets were provided to all the voting members in advance of this meeting. Several of the amendments in this category are requesting their first time extension. There are a few in here that are requesting a second time extension. However, as noted in the full amendment packet, significant progress has been made on all of the projects that are requesting their second time extension. I also wanted to note that the amendments that are requesting their time extension, there are some that will result in a contract term that is slightly longer than 5 years. However, I believe that there is low risk of non-approval by the Office of the State Comptroller regarding those amendments. I also did want to note here that all of the amendment requests in this category are asking for a 1-year extension or less. There are some amendments in this section that are asking for a 3-month extension or 6-month extension. Do you mind scrolling down just a hair to kind of give folks an idea? Are there any questions about the amendments that were included in the recommend approval section?
Bethany, you said there's 14 in that section?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Looking at these again, it appears like, the justification for these are very similar to what we've, been experiencing over the last, year or so. Anything, from these that jumps out at you, anything special needed to discuss? I know you've got them broken out, but. Not in these particularly, but a lot of the amendments do cite COVID and financial uncertainties as a reason for, needing the request. Several of the extensions have been in this category and in the one that we're going to be actually going through individual amendments, have cited some challenges with getting federal funding as match. Projects have applied for federal funding to offset, out-of-pocket expenses, and there's been some delays and challenges with that process that have resulted in a delay in implementation. So that is something worth noting as well.
Could I get a motion to approve these 14 in this section, please? Could I get a second? Second, please. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dale.
Okay. Could I get a second for the motion, please?
Darren, are you guys muted?
Dave, can you hear us? Darren? Odd.
Scott?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear us?
All right.
Yeah, I seconded. Technical difficulties on this end.
We run into them. It's okay. I need a second for the motion, please.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott? Scott, did I hear you? Dave? Dave, are you muted? We're having technical difficulties. Dave or Scott, please. Brian, can I approve it? With two and myself?
Let's see.
Yes, I think Scott's muted. He's given a thumbs up sign. I don't know, Scott, if you are able to unmute your line. He's trying.
Yeah.
I
imagine Dave's got muted also.
Yep. So, Scott, can you unmute and then so we can hear your voice, please? So Dale, yes, with your vote and a first and a second from Darren and Erica, we could approve these. We're going to check on the other issues.
All right, okay. This motion is approved then, because I got aye. We're going to move on to the next section, the next amendments.
Okay, so there are 6 that I wanted to go through individually with the voting members and get separate approvals for. Yep, Abigail's just scrolling down to the appropriate page. Keep going, one more.
Got a little lost here.
That's okay. There's so many. There we go. So the first time extension that I want to present here is from Delaware County for a Round 25 project. This is their first time extension request. However, they are requesting a 22-month extension for a new end date of December 20th of 2024. This project has had some struggles in requesting federal matching funds, which has caused some delays in implementation. Hopefully, they will hopefully find out early in 2023 whether or not the landowner will be able to get some cost share assistance from our federal partners. There has been some implementation performed on this project, which includes a portion of the riparian buffer system that has been installed. This extension is supported by Scott Fickbaum, Region 3 AEA, but referred to the state committee.
Questions, anyone, comments? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott? Yep, Scott's got problems. hear background. Dave,
Aye.
it's approved. Thank you. Next one, please.
Okay, the next one is a time extension request that was submitted by the Fulton County Soil and Water Conservation District for a Round 22 project. This will be the third time extension for the contract. They are looking to extend their contract to a new end date of December 31st of 2023. With this time extension, that will take their contract term to just over 7 years. The participating farm in this project has experienced financial hardship due to a lack of a dairy market competition. They have performed some work on a riparian buffer system, and that is nearly complete. A portion of a livestock heavy use runoff management system has also been implemented. They are projecting that these systems will be completed in the summer of 2023. This extension is supported by Scott Fickbaum, Region 3 AEA, but is referred to the state committee for consideration.
It is a long-term for what we've historically done, but they have done the majority of the work by the looks of it to me. And summer of 23 isn't far away. What does everybody else think?
I'd agree.
Any other discussion or questions, comments?
No.
Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
And second. Moved and seconded. Go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Scott? I can see the thumbs up. We'll have to work on Scott's voice. The motion's approved. Next one, please.
Okay, so the next time extension was submitted by the Jefferson County Soil and Water Conservation District for a Round 24 project. They are looking to extend their contract from March 1st of 2023 to a new end date of March 1st, 2025. So they are seeking a 2-year time extension. This would be the second time extension for this contract. The project was initially delayed due to COVID and the lack of contractor availability. There has been some changeover in district staff, as well as a new engineer has been brought on for this project that will be providing design and technical oversight. The district and the landowner are requesting the 2 final construction seasons to provide enough time to properly design, bid, and implement the project. To date, the district staff has spent considerable amount of time visiting the site and working with the landowner and farm planner. This amendment is supported by Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA, but referred to the state committee.
Can you scroll down on your screen at all?
Great.
Very good. Thank you much. On this one, Dave, you'll have to recuse, being Genesee County. I'm sorry, Jefferson County. Are there any other questions, comments, anyone?
Ryan would like to speak to this, or if anybody's with Dave at the Jefferson Soil and Water District, they're welcome to speak to it as well.
I can add further details. I know that this one and the following one here are in the same position. Initially, it was materials and contractor delays. There's a new manager and they do have a new engineer on staff. So there hasn't been a lot of progress to date on this grant, but the engineer that's on staff at the district has made considerable headway working with the farm and taking on the design himself. It is going to run in, since we're already into March here, it is going to run into construction season 24, and that's why they're looking for a 2-year extension here.
Any further questions or comments, anyone? Motion to approve, please. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Excellent. We can hear you. Approved. Thank you. Next
Sorry
one.
about that.
No worries. Glad you're with us. And Abigail, we'll just record Dave's abstention for that one.
Probably the next one also.
Yeah, the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, there actually are two more Jefferson amendments, so
Okay.
just for both of the next two. So the next one, as we've already established, was submitted by Jefferson County for another round 24 project that is set to end today, March 1st of 2023, and they're looking to extend to March 1st of 2025. Again, this is the second time extension request for this contract. Similar reasons are cited for the delays in this project, as we already discussed. COVID and the lack of contractor availability, changes in district staff, and a new engineer have been brought on, and the farm is committed to completing this project within the new timeframe. This amendment is also supported by Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA, but referred to the state committee.
Where? Jefferson. I don't know.
Any comments, Ryan?
Same situation here. They've had to pivot with new district staff. They've spent considerable time out there doing some of the planning and initial design work, and they intend to take that on. But again, they need the extra time to bid and do construction, likely taking through the 24 construction season.
I think you'd have to make it pretty clear to staff that it would be very difficult to go beyond to do another time extension after this. That I think you're probably, this 2-year would probably be it, being the second extension, and for this length. It'd be difficult to prove with, I would think, that we could counsel for approval. Any other comments, questions, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you all. Next, please.
That was a Jefferson one, right?
I'm sorry. My mistake.
Okay. Nope, no
We got to
worries.
take out Dave's. Next one we'll have you in.
I wasn't
Okay.
awake either.
Yeah. All right, next, please.
All right, our next one is also from Jefferson County for a third round 24 contract. They're looking for a same time extension, a 2-year extension to March 1st of 2025. This is also a second time extension request for this contract. In this particular project, the farm was sold and a new owner came on that would still like to implement the project but needed more time for design considerations. The district, again, has some new staff that are coming on in the middle of the project that will be providing design and technical assistance. Already, district staff has provided considerable time working with the landowners and the farm planners. And the new owner is committed to finishing the project within the next 2 years. This time extension request is supported by Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA, but referred to the state committee.
Questions, comments, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
And seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Next.
Next, and this is my last time extension today. So this one was submitted by the Washington County Soil and Water Conservation District for a Round 25 project. So this is the first time extension request for this contract. However, the district is requesting a 2-year time extension for a new end date of February 20th, 2025. The farm and the district have been waiting for completed designs from the engineer, and they have also submitted an application for EQIP funding. The district had hoped to begin implementation of a vegetated treatment area in the summer of 2022. However, they did not receive completed designs in time. A previous EQIP application was not funded and had been rolled over to the new funding round. The farm is hopeful that the project will be funded this time around to provide additional financial assistance to the project costs. The farm has also been working with a lender to obtain financing for the project as well. All parties involved in this project would like to start construction as soon as summer 2023. This time extension has been or is supported by Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 AEA, but referred to the state committee.
Any comments, Ryan?
Yeah, thanks. This is a non-CAFO in Washington County with a new generation taking over the farm. So not a lot had been done in the previous decades. The new generation is committed to doing all the planning for a lot of significant projects. It's more than just a waste storage facility. They'll be tackling milk house waste, silage leachate system, and a considerable amount of time has been done with the planning and engineering along with district work. So they're asking for just the extra time to kind of complete that implementation in the next 2 years.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, anyone? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you all for your time and consideration with all of those time extension requests. I will, I think, pass the microphone over to Tyler Knapp to go through the awesome presentation that he put together.
All right, thanks, Bethany. Let's see if this pulls up. Okay, perfect. So real quick, staying on Ag Non-Point Source, I'm going to just run through some of the program updates, the typical stuff for a number of contracts and dollar amounts. So really, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I'd like to pivot to leave enough time for the other presentation, but I'm going to follow the bottom line of the table again, really. So 8 active or pending rounds of Ag Non-Point, 21 through 28. That encompasses 373 total contracts, for roughly valued at $121 million. There's only one pending round, which would be 28, as Bethany kind of already went through, and that encompasses 36 contracts. And those are valued at just over $13 million. To date this year, so we have 164 active contracts. And those are valued at roughly $58.5 million. 165 of the 373 contracts have been completed, and those are valued at just over $48.5 million. And there's just some visuals on the bottom again. So I didn't do any special analysis on this stuff today. Any questions on that? Hearing none. What am I moving into the other presentation?
Yes, Tyler, that's what we'll do right now. You can move into the other presentation, and then you can conclude with the CRF program update like this one, and then we'll move forward with the rest of the CRF program status updates
All right.
and amendments. Thank you.
Bear with me for a second. We're going to pivot here. So as Brian mentioned in the beginning, I've been working the last week or two. Actually, a team of us have been kind of working on some data and some analysis of 2022 accomplishments across the programs. So the programs will include Ag Non-Point, CRF, and I did include CAFO waste storage, which isn't necessarily an SWCC program, but it's just more of a whole picture. I'll try to do natural pauses. If anybody has any questions, feel free to kind of chime in as we go along, or we can kind of go through stuff in the end here. So discussion points, as I mentioned, the 3 programs, I'm just going to kind of break them down a little bit and go through some rough numbers. And part of that breakdown will be participants or farm types, best management systems, and kind of the associated practices of those systems. I also included a couple conservation district project highlights, just some pictures, some visuals, just to really kind of show just those success stories across the state. And then lastly, the environmental effects. So there's some nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment reduction numbers, as well as greenhouse gas reductions. So those carbon dioxide equivalents, we try to really kind of project where we're at. And there's going to be a little bit more to that, but I'll go over that once we get to it. Okay, so the basic highlights kind of is just like the number of contracts, how many districts were involved, number of farms and stuff like that. So really, in 2022, there were 67 completed contracts, and that involved 28 conservation districts implementing. So their implementation time or technical assistance, just hours, is tracked on how much time it actually takes to put these projects on the ground. And they spent over 16,000 hours assisting farms in putting in these projects. And that also spanned across 82 sub-watersheds across New York State, which is pretty impressive. Dollar amounts, so about $14.6 million in the total. It's a little hard to explain, but the total contracted portion of the state's amount, right? So it isn't necessarily like the total dollar of everything that it costs to put those projects in, but really what came out of the state budgets for that. $13.26 million were associated to actual implementation of the BMPs, and about 1.34 were associated to those services costs. So district time, engineering, maybe even a couple of other options in there as well. So sponsors contributed or invested about $371,000 towards these projects. And the landowners themselves almost split it right down the middle at $12.2 million. So really, as much as the state is putting forward in these projects, landowners are coming right behind in that match, which is quite impressive. So yes, 67 completed projects. We're capturing 95 farms across the state, and they implemented just under 600 conservation practices. So that is also quite impressive. One of the projects had NRCS match, and 6 of the projects had local conservation district match. So they're actually putting their own dollars towards those projects. So the next little breakdown kind of at the bottom is just kind of an average of what a typical contract looked like in 2022. So the average contract amount was $219,000, and that's equivalent to what's coming out of the state budget for that contract, right? So 219, so 53% of the total project essentially. Sponsors were contributing about $6,000 or 1% on average, and landowners were putting in 186 or 46%, and that would give us a rough total contract cost of $411,000. And kind of segueing into the next slide here is it's really a broad range of farm types and BMP systems and practices that we're encompassing here. I know that was a lot of numbers and data really quick, so are there any questions?
Tom, I've got a question.
Sure.
So out of the 67 completed contracts, only one was NRC?
So that was captured in our forms. It might just say landowner in some instances, so we might just not know. But actually written in the SW forms, NRCS was one project, yeah. It likely is several more. Yeah.
Tyler, when it says sponsor investment, what's an example of a sponsor? Who falls in that category?
So sponsor could be, I believe their overhead would be considered, so I don't know the best way to, PJ.
Sometimes sponsor would be like in Onondaga, they have City of Syracuse funding.
Oh, okay,
Or-
for the first Skinny Atlas.
Yep.
Okay, or in Delaware County for the
New York City,
watershed
yeah.
ag council kind of thing.
Yep, or if there was local funding too, right, there could be sponsored.
The city watershed doesn't fund any projects through.
Yeah, Dan, that's a good question and well explained. But yeah, it's generally considered that the sponsor is the district who's working on behalf of the farm and who we have the contract with, right? So it's funds that were available to the district and used by the district to match the project. So it could be their overhead, could be their time, as well as potential BMP implementation funds from sources like you just mentioned.
Any other questions or comments on this slide? It wasn't 7 seconds, but we'll go with it. So next, this is just kind of a breakdown of the participants or the farm types generally across all of the different programs. So on the left, the larger the pie chart is the overall participant farm type. So as you can kind of see, dairy is kind of making up the majority of the participating farms, followed pretty shortly by beef and cash crops, orchards. But what is most interesting about this is I kind of broke it apart across all of the programs just to kind of get a feel of who's participating where. And interestingly, or maybe it's not surprisingly, dairy is kind of participating in most of the programs. They're taking the lead. I'm really not surprised by CAFO waste storage. That's kind of plain and simple, but really, I think we're going to probably start seeing a shift in CRF, I think, a little bit, especially as we do some of the soil health practices and systems. But it's just kind of an interesting breakdown just to get a kind of feel. So ag non-point source, 61 farms total, completed projects last year. So just keep in mind, this isn't necessarily how many are participating in programs overall. This is literally just what farms completed practices or projects last year. So this could be totally different next year, this year, right? So, and then so CRF had 14 total farms complete projects last year, and CAFO waste storage had 20.
And it's pretty fair to say when dairy is up there, that represents a significant field crop acreage as well as farmstead facilities and pastures and stream corridors and all those things that are within the boundaries of a dairy farm in New York.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean we're doing something on the farm. Right. It could be in the fields. So this table is just kind of a breakdown of the available best management systems that conservation districts, that essentially we use to prioritize projects. So I just wanted to kind of flash this across as I segue into what systems were implemented. And this is a more to come situation, I think, shortly, or it has. So 22 BMP systems. So just looking for my numbers. So there were 13 best management systems implemented last year. I kind of was just going to focus, like there was a couple big ticket ones. So 49 waste storage and transfer systems, which was quite impressive. Soil health systems was up there quite a bit on the right-hand side. And livestock heavy use area the management system, and it seems to be the pretty heavily prescribed options. Let me just make sure. Again, this could fluctuate year to year, likely going to change, but that's just the snapshot for last year. So
Brian and I had a little bit of discussion earlier on the waste storages. It'd be nice to know what NRCS has also done in 2022 on waste storages for what we accomplished in a year statewide, because the state, we're only part of what the work's being done. NRCS is doing a massive amount of work too. So it'd be interesting to know what that total figure was for waste storages in 2022.
And other practice systems too, right, Dale? So yeah, it's
not just waste storages.
Yep.
That would be excellent to collaborate on that. That would be great. Any other
and I was
questions?
just going to mention the waste storage. Yeah. Well, this is wonderful. I was just going to mention the waste storage number as well, right? So we included the CAFO waste storage and transfer system program into this overall evaluation, and that program by its nature and design, supports the expansion of nutrient management, through waste storage facilities. So one of the reasons why that number is so high is because we included that program. But as Tyler mentioned, we want to kind of have a broader, biggest picture view of what was accomplished in 2022 by our soil and water districts and by our farmers. So might be interesting also to see, how the numbers might have shifted as well a little bit. If we looked at Ag Non-Point and CRF independent of the waste storage program, but I mean, it is extremely impressive if you look at, the amount of projects that were done. 15 repairing buffer systems also, stands out as, a system that we might have seen, more in the, 2, 4, 5 range, to see 15 systems being done in 2022 is also very impressive. And of course, soil health continues. Big campaign, moving forward with soil health. So excellent.
No, perfect. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
So what I did is I did the systems just so folks could kind of see where that's falling in a little bit, but then I really wanted to kind of jump in. I know this isn't a great visual. There's just not a solid way to do a good visual of practices because all the units are different. So really, I'm just going to kind of read from this a little bit. So I made a couple of notes. So across the 13 BMP systems, we captured over 40 best management practices with varying amounts of units across each one. So a couple highlights. Over 4,800 acres of cover crops were implemented last year. 42,000 feet of fencing. 260 square feet of heavy use area protection. I should be able to do the conversion to acres, but not right now. 670 acres of tillage management, 50 waste storage facilities, and over 20 acres of riparian forest buffers, which was getting into your comment there, Brian. So I did a little conversion. So that's roughly 6 miles of 30-foot buffer across the state. So it's just kind of to put it in perspective a little bit. I'm not saying they were all 30 feet, but I just picked a number. So yeah, lots of practices across those systems to a varying amount. And again, this will fluctuate year to year. I'm going to move on to some just kind of some highlights, some examples across the various programs. I tried my best to capture some of those practices that we just kind of talked about. So the first one is a CAFO round 2 for Cayuga. This was a waste storage and transfer system with a grass waterway. The farm likely is using the site for containing dry manure. It's like a dry stacking area, which I believe is linked right to that pit. But I don't know too much about it, so if any of the AEAs know more and want to talk about it, feel free. Ag Non-Point, round 23, Chautauqua. So this was a waste storage and transfer system as well, just kind of before and after photos. You can kind of see the concrete structure on the right-hand side that was installed. not sure the size. I don't know much of the background details. I was just kind of cruising through some closeout documents and extracting some photos. CRF round 4, this is Seneca counties. So we got some before and after photos of a lined waterway there, the upper left-hand corner. Some before and after, which looks like I reversed, of a water and sediment control basin on the lower left. And then I wasn't exactly sure of the photos if these were before and after, but it just looked like there was some significant flooding that they were trying to address with some diversion and maybe some settling basins in there and stuff like that. So it was just quite impressive to see the aerial footage there. Agnon Point round 24 for Washington. We have a vegetated treatment area. Just kind of some construction progress and what it looked like as they were going through and getting that seeded down. Looks like they have settling and it just kind of tears down there a little bit. Ag non-point and CRF, so I combined these two a little bit just to get some of those soil health systems in there. So this is Onondaga and Cayuga County. There's some cover crops in there and some residue and tillage management, which I think was specific to more of the mulch till. Thanks, Jason, for chasing down those photos for me, if you're on. Ag non-point round 23 for Montgomery. Just some before and afters of, I believe, a covered manure storage and heavy use area protection. We have some access road and another VTA, a vegetated treatment area. And so this was really just a few. We could have done a lot of slides, a lot of photos, and I bet we could happily have some districts come in and talk about their projects more specifically at some point in the future. So I'm going to dive right into the environmental effects here just to kind of keep moving us along. So just some background information. So for the 2022 data, there's going to be nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment reduction estimates. And we utilize the Chesapeake Assessment and Scenario Tool, the CAS tool, specifically version 19. So that's just that first kind of bullet. There's definitely some credits that need to be had, especially with some of our partners and amongst ourselves for trying to get usable tools so we can kind of extract or calculate some of this data. For the CO2 equivalent reductions, we're utilizing Comet Planner, the 3.0 version, which is last year's version. So again, that's the second bullet point there. We just kind of ran some crosswalks from the Comet Planner. They have specific BMPs, and we always relate to the NRCS practices. Same goes for the CAS tool as well. And then I tried to do some equivalents. So I used EPA's greenhouse kind of equivalent tool just to get numbers into more of a digestible, like how many cars did we take off the road and stuff like that. So that's just a link for that as well. Okay, so I didn't really make myself too many notes for this because it's just kind of all over the place a little bit. So first we're going to focus on the NP and the sediment. So as we ran CAS across all of those systems and practices, we're looking at just over 1 million pounds a year of nitrogen reductions. And please feel free to chime in on some of this. And then for phosphorus, just over 200,000 pounds a year of phosphorus. And then sediment, just about 3.2 million pounds a year of sediment. So that's kind of the water quality side, as I'm calling it a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of just pivot real quick to more of that carbon equivalent stuff. And before we do that, just a small disclaimer. The estimates are calculated basically for the practices that we have available to us in the tools, right? So there's practices out there that we're implementing that we don't necessarily have the tools available or those coefficients that we need to apply to understand and really get a better numbers in terms of what's actually happening across all of the programs. So really, it's only going to improve more. I don't want to say take these with a grain of salt, but just understand that it's going to only improve as we go across and get further understanding and further develop tools with our partners, really. And that's really mainly specific to waste storage facilities and a couple of those other practices, right? So yes, our metric tons, so we're estimating 1,700 metric tons of CO2 equivalent sequestration, man, I can't say that word, for 2022. However, that is likely going to change in the future, right? So I did try to, the equivalent, so I really wanted to put that into better terminology. So how many cars are we taking off the road? So EPA has that calculator, and it's telling me, so that's 1,700 metric tons, roughly takes 730 passenger cars off the road a year. Doesn't sound that impressive, but I guess you put them all on the highway, it seems it's pretty chaotic, right? That also equates to roughly 4.2 million miles of just passenger vehicles driven a year, or 333 annual energy, basically energy for a single family home, or 192,000 gallons of gasoline consumed. So it is quite interesting. Any questions on that? On those estimates? Comments?
Tyler, can you talk about the distribution of the sequestration? Were there practices that make up the majority or the bulk of that, or?
So that, yeah, I mean, that is an interesting scenario, and we could do that. So we would be able to, that would just be further analysis. Absolutely, yeah. We could break it apart by practice a little bit. It's just, yeah, a little bit more groundwork, so we could do that.
Right, and it's the benefit times the units, right? So probably the biggest ones are repairing forest buffer, any conversions of annual row cropping to long-term perennial forages, for instance, things like that. And then you got to multiply it by the units to get the, right, to see what the overall impact is.
Absolutely.
But things like that tend to be in the data set that we currently have linked to this analysis, like Tyler's described, and that's from the comment planner. Certainly benefits there also, which like Tyler said, a lot of opportunities to get better with this, and working with some partners from the Nutrient Management Spear program at Cornell on nitrous oxide assessments from our nutrient management practices. Anything linked to that, and our management of nitrogen on farms will have a decent sized impact as well. And we think we're capturing a part of that with comment, but it's not quite tailored to everything that farmers are doing and farmers are doing with our practices through these programs.
Any other questions? I feel like I may have ran over my time, so I'm just gonna stop.
Tyler, this is Erica. I first of all appreciate this overview. I think seeing it all together, it really demonstrates both the investment and the impact from districts and from the state and the farms as well. So appreciate that. And I think just one thought as you were going through, and it kind of is maybe pulling off a little bit of the last couple comments on where there might be extra layers of detail. Was just curious if looking at kind of the types of farms and then the types of systems, if there's any value in also looking at the amount of funds and investment kind of made within that area, especially when you're talking about CRF and seeing that as kind of a potential growth area for farms outside of dairy, which certainly continue to want to see the need for that investment, but how to capture kind of added investment to other types of operations through CRF that might be able to be looked at through the kind of the dollars broken down by the different programs. But all to say, like it's all good and supporting, but how to track that over time, especially with CRF growing and having the soil health systems be a big part of that.
No, that's a great point and a good future analysis for sure. Thanks, Erica. Any other? Perfect. I will end.
Okay, we're on to CRF.
All right, come.
I was double muted. I wanted. Lucky for everyone. I just also wanted to say one thing too before we move on is that this is probably the appropriate time of each year to do something like this because our contract periods usually end at the end of the calendar year. Districts have 60 days, 2 months to get reports in. There's probably a few reports that are still outstanding that we would otherwise have more data for. So I think we've committed ourselves now to doing such a retrospect, in March of every year. So good work, Tyler. Thank you for this and great analysis.
And
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Tyler?
a little, I guess, fly in the ointment with the timing, which is fine, is we'll do the AIM base completion report in a similar manner, every 2 years, usually in the summer, unless we wanted to wait several more months, combine it into that one. But that's just the schedule of that. That's something we could think about as a staff, how we report that.
That's a good point, Greg. Thanks.
Okay, now we're on to CRF.
Tyler, do you have the CRF dashboard you want to start off with, and then we'll move into amendments? You're not off the hook yet.
Sure. Yeah, nobody's sick of me yet, so yeah, we can jump right into this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so similar to, is it share? No, it's not. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So similar to Ag Non-Point, just a quick run through of contracts and dollar amounts. So roughly $18 million in total contract amounts out there right now. Round 6 is still pending, and that's $8.4 million or 36 contracts. Of the active contracts, of the 66 of those, that's roughly $7 million. And then some of the completed, so $2.2 million roughly have been completed, and that's across 29 contracts. Again, just a couple of visuals just to kind of help break it apart, base it on some of the rounds that have been completely closed out and completed. So any questions?
Yeah, thank you for this, and we'll give a little bit of an update on round 6 here in a minute. But thanks so much, Tyler.
Okay, I will end the presentation and not end the
Okay. And Abigail, do you have the amendment sheet that we prepared for CRF?
Yes, I do.
Okay, there it is. Wonderful. And you're okay to run through this?
Yes, I can. So for
wonderful.
amendments for CRS, this month we have 2 amendments, both from Region 2, both from Fulton County. The first is a time extension to December 31st of 2023. The district is requesting a no-cost time extension to allow the farm to complete the irrigation water management system. The farm has had complications securing a contractor and is committed to completing the project within the requested time frame, within the extended time frame. And Scott Fickbaum, the Region 3 AEA, supports the request but refers to state committee and has no prior amendments.
Questions or comments, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved. Second.
And moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Next, please.
Thank you. Our second time extension request is also from Fulton County. requesting a time extension to December 31st, 2023. The district is requesting a no-cost time extension to allow the farm irrigation water management system. The farm has had complications securing a contractor and is committed to completing the project within the requested timeframe. And Scott Fickbaum, Region 3 AEA, supports the request but refers to the state committee.
Questions, comments, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. And just a really quick program status update for round 6. We received word over the weekend that the procurement record for round 6 has been approved. So we will move forward with contracts pending our plan of work review, which is currently ongoing. And Brian, do you have anything for round 7?
Yes, thank you. So round 7, like the Agnon Point Source RFP that Bethany mentioned earlier, is pending review. It is with our department's counsel's office, and they are reviewing this RFP with the guidance materials and the evaluation instrument and proposal rating sheet. So, thank you to the state committee for authorizing some significant changes to this RFP back in December of 2022. It took us a little bit longer than we had expected to, write those changes into the RFP and provide the necessary guidelines and guidance. And thank you to the staff, really all stepping up to lend their expertise and technical knowledge to this request for proposals. So after it goes through council's review, we'll also then be, along with the Agnon Point Source RFP, awaiting a release date. We're going to be contacting our front office PIOs soon, just to get ready for a press release on these requests for proposals when it completes the department's review. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. Next up, Greg, manure storage cover.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Pull the screen up here. I have it about maxed out on my screen here. Tyler's, thanks for sharing. Hopefully it's okay for your view as well. So this is a draft that we're proposing to put out there for field use and feedback and refinement over time. So consider it like a first draft there. Focused on a tool to help districts and partners to work with farmers to assess whether their current manure storage system, is a good fit for their farm goals and will benefit the farm, as well as feasible based on some technical attributes of the storage system itself and the farm's management for a cover and flare retrofit. And so this is all really critical because storages are central for better managing nutrients, for benefits to farm viability, water quality, and soil health. And then, when we were able to pair them with a cover and flare, we get those extra benefits for greenhouse gas mitigation from methane. So the idea came, I think, originally from Scott Fickbaum, and then came independently also during the stakeholder inputs and discussion sessions that Jennifer Clifford organized around CRF Round 7 this summer. And so we got to work on framing out an idea here that would be helpful. This is all content from that opening paragraph there, but for planners and district technicians to assess, identify, and prioritize potential cover and flare projects for farms, and really intended to be a guide to help maybe prepare for a meeting and a conversation with farm at a its most sort of casual use, and depending on the style and approach and background of that person meeting with the farm, could be used even more formally as a rating tool. But that's not dictated by this. This is at the very starting point. It's like a fact sheet of critical features across two main categories: potential benefits to the farm, and then the second category are aspects of feasibility for a governed flare project based on the farm's current management or future management and infrastructure. So want to underscore the very last sentence of the first paragraph there, that the draft is not a requirement for application to a cost share program, whether it being put forward to track 1 for climate resilient farming or to the Ag Non-Point Source program. But rather just a tool to help provide guidance depending on the local interests of the district and their expertise as they work with farmers. And to further narrow and simplify and kind of state the obvious here, but it's important, is that this is primarily working with farms likely of CAFO size, and of course very closely with their AIM certified planner, who's the planner of record for their CAFO permit, and perhaps professional engineers. That team or that subset of farms kind of provides focus here. Not saying that cover flares aren't possible on smaller livestock farms. They certainly are, but as we're taking next early steps, right? Not first steps. We've already done that. It's important to prioritize and focus to gather interest, and with a tool like this, what farms might be most ready to go. To help us along with this, it got a little more formal, but we're all the better for it. We're able to capture a little bit of time for Lauren Ray, Peter Wright, and Jason Oliver from Cornell ProDairy's Dairy Environmental Systems program, as well as Jenny Whiteman from Cornell, and of course all the staff provided really helpful input into shaping a draft for. It's kind of respectful and ready for field use, and hopefully not a time waster, but a good platform for districts and partners to use for its intended goal, to help identify farms that are most interested and most ready for a cover and flare system on their storage, as well as get some experience with it and provide feedback on how it might be refined. So that's all background information, and I'll just very quickly go through, the kind of questions that gelled after, it started from a more expansive list and then focused. A lot alike if anybody's been involved with, the development or an update of a tier 2 worksheet, right? I know this, we designed it to look like a tier worksheet, but you see the questions at the top: more beneficial, less beneficial, more feasible, less feasible, are a little different. But we just did that for familiarity's sake, right? And it also has a good function in that using 1 through 4 allows us to kind of make a mark on where that specific farm is, even if we didn't, quite characterize that category exactly as it drapes over that farm situation, right? All of these take some technical ability and a lot of listening to the farmer and some best professional judgment to make a call where we're at. So the first section is all about the potential benefits to the farm, right? And it's intended to be done on a storage by storage basis, but again, planner license there too, depending on how the conversation is going with the farm and how they capture that. The first few questions: is the farm interest, starting with the carrot here, right, for CRF or Ag Non-Point Source, does the farm have an interest in receiving cost share funding? Are they working with a co-op or another company that might be working on its own sustainability goals as a part of its corporate reporting? that maybe is paying for methane destruction and carbon credits. Several questions that kind of lean toward economic benefits to the farm if you distill them down, right? Is the farm interested in separation? A key question there that can have a benefit to the farm if they're interested and it seems to plumb nicely into their system. That is also a prerequisite and necessary for covering a storage and flaring of the captured gas. If that, we've seen with the farms that we've worked on so far, that if they're then using those separated solids for bedding and they have the management and facilities to allow that's an added, can be an added economic benefit as well, and further recycling materials for the farm and reducing purchased inputs. Questions about would the farm like more capacity or storage and recover it? We eliminate 40, 45 inches of rain per year falling into storage. That then becomes part of the manure material itself, and we've got to handle it. How does the farm transfer manure to fields? Here, the continuum is sort of, you're going to get the most benefit if your current system is the least efficient among the manure handling options out there today, right? So if I'm hauling with tanks and tractors, and especially a ways down the road, as much water that I can exclude from that system, that's going to benefit me the most. So that's the logic on that one. And that's an important one. And the next one is with covered storages, we see more of the nitrogen staying in ammonium form and not volatilizing as ammonia and being lost from the storage. So the nitrogen content of the manure that's then taken out and brought to fields is higher. And if that's been a benefit to the farm, we wanted to acknowledge that. And that's usually going to be, I know one of the comments was, isn't that always a yes? And likely so, but there could be cases where the farm doesn't quite have adequate acreage to conserve that extra and use that extra nitrogen. But often that will be a positive for most farms. The next few storages kind of are deliberately focused on, let's call them neighbor relations, right? And so odor concerns and view shed and aesthetics and so on. The idea that storages are, like we talked about before, are critical for water quality, but they often, we see many cases where they raise concern, especially when they're in a satellite location that's separate from the main farmstead that's been there for decades, right? And a cover can often aid, if it's feasible, with that satellite storage in some of those neighbor concerns, and perhaps also aid in them blending in and doing their job as designed and operated and maintained for nutrient recycling on the farm once they're installed and adopted by the farm. And then you can see a nod here. Again, all of these open for discussion and revision once folks have gotten a copy of it and thought about it in their conversations with farms and use with farms in the future. But at least an approach we're suggesting here is that the final summary score that one might use for ranking, again, not use as makes sense to that district, right? Would be based on a kind of arm's length look at your notes taken during the discussion with the farmer and a summary score, as opposed to a mathematical sum of the scores that one might generate by using it. It wasn't built that way, like the tier 2s aren't, because that would really require a weighting of the questions, and those questions could have different weights in different farm scenarios. So that's always been a challenge with tier 2s. So I guess the simpler way I should have said that is the same kind of process you'd use in assigning a summary score for the Tier 2 summary sheet that districts have used for years. Any questions on the benefits section here? Again, this is an introduction, and I just wanted to sort of get a little common ground here for this first draft that we've put out, and then want to ultimately, with the concurrence of the state committee, send out to districts for trialing.
I've got a question. So
Yeah.
on the potential benefit, why is the cover and flare associated with the digester more favored than one that's not?
It could have benefits in delivering more gas to the system, but that we found depends on the gas developer who operates the renewable natural gas plant on the farm. Some take it, and they have a system for further cleaning the gas that comes off of ambient storage, digestate storage, sorry. And some care not to, and they just flare it. Sort of to Scott's point there is a bit of a rhyme and reason. Not sure we quite wired it correctly, though, in the order of the questions, and where they tend to be maybe more impactful and more important early on in the pages here. And an example of that is if we switch over to the section that's, hey, how feasible would a cover and flare system be for your farm given your management, future interest in management, and your current storage infrastructure, right? And definitely the first three questions here are pretty fundamental and tied to the immediate feasibility, right? So if you're getting 4s on all of these, that's kind of a sign that, hey, we got a little more work to do, and maybe the next storage we build, we do this with in mind, and maybe we even cover and flare it right in the same project, right? But tough to do with our existing ones, right? So storage volume, the idea there is larger volume equals larger potential to benefit and be cost effective in our destruction of methane. Certainly, though, the size of the storage can be overridden by many positives and readiness factors elsewhere in there, right? Farmers really keen on doing it. They've got everything lined up, right? If it's a smaller storage, that can still be a very good project, right? Bedding type is a critical one. It's much easier with organic bedding or including separated solids. Much more of a challenge, although not impossible. We all saw during the Conservation Skills Workshop a farm in Cuyahoga County that has a digester and will have a covered storage with sand bedding. But they really manage the separation process there, and it's a significant commitment. The storage type, these are just kind of right out of 313, right? 2-to-1 or flatter, that's just right out of 313, and it's earthen, right? Those are the ones that are most amenable to these, and trenching in an anchor system for the cover. But certainly not out of the question, straight wall concrete, rectangular, circular design. Although, and we don't have an example of this for an ambient manure storage in New York. The engineers remind us that that concrete structural tank needs to be designed to be able to handle the loads, the various unique loads that come from putting a cover on the top of it. You might say, hey, I see covered structural storages in the state. And yeah, they're all associated with that new generation of anaerobic digesters, and they're actually the digester. And the difference there is that the pressure of the gas takes the structural stress off of the walls by holding up the cover Whereas we don't always have that luxury of gas pressure 365 days a year with an ambient temperature covered storage.
Correct. There's a question from Amanda in the chat. I don't know
Oh, yeah, I can't see it. Sorry.
No, I can pass my phone down, or I can read it to you, whatever.
Just for anyone else who doesn't have the chat up, Amanda is asking, how is a project where other funding or economic benefit for a cover flare has been identified more feasible?
Yeah, I mean, that could be, I think, so what you're maybe suggesting is there's a linkage between the first section and this one where I think, so if I'm misreading that and someone else has a better answer, where, you know, if all the finances are there, isn't that a feasibility element? Yeah, sure is. If I didn't get that, maybe come off mute, Amanda, or
I was just going to suggest that you can put your questions in the chat, or certainly you can come off mute and ask a question if you've got one.
It was just more of a factor of, I was thinking about this in terms of using it to determine which projects are feasible to apply for additional funding for. And if there's already resources available to the farm, while the project itself might be more feasible, I'm not sure it's the most feasible project to be able to be putting additional resources into.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. There's the condition of the berm. Sorry, I should be pointing these things out. I apologize. That's why I'm using the computer. And to that, we had a good discussion with engineers from ProDairy and you know, really are leaning on those top widths that are identified in the 313 standard, where they, you know, generally need to be wider as the berm height grows and increases in elevations. And then this allows us to touch on discussions of operation and maintenance and existing condition of a berm. You know, not taking the project off the table, but it might take some actual berm reconstruction if you know, there are especially woody vegetation or woodchuck holes or things like that have crept in over time and not been addressed. Solid separation continues to be an important part, and what they currently have or what they're willing to do. Another question is installation space around the existing storage for covering it, and this is a little bit variable by the installer. You know, we talked to two this fall, and one said, no, I can do all sorts of things. I can build it right on the storage itself, so I need very little. And another one, you know, really prefers to lay it out on the side and weld it together and drag it on. But we tried to capture some scenarios there where there's just wide open space, like a couple tractor widths or more around the storage, or we start to get hemmed in one side at a time, like there might be a barn or something around it. Really important, the next two questions are kind of related to the quality of the water that's collected and pumped off of the storage cover. If we're in an area where we're always going to get organics blown onto it from a bunk silo or adjacent barns, you know, that's just going to represent more management challenges and more O&M that needs to be done so that we don't get buildup, we don't turn the collected water into kind of a processed water, you know, needing more formal treatment, and we can manage it simply. Certainly that can be managed around in many cases though. And then likely, you know, hey, it's most beneficial if the farm is really excited about the idea of collecting some clean water that they can use. And, you know, Dale has, and the Stein farms have really had a nice example of that, how they're collecting every bit of it and using it for irrigation for crop growth when needed the most in the summer. Flare location, this ideally, you know, we're able, the methane mitigation part comes with an operating flare. So an operating flare has a chance to be capturing more gas. You know, Our sense is if it's present around the farmstead and can be easily monitored and operated and maintained, and that's kind of the nature of this. Certainly some of that can be overcome if it's connected with remote data and someone on the farm is tasked with just keeping an eye on that and whether it's combusting or whether it's not, as shown through their cell phone there, which you might ask, this kind of conflicts with that whole series of farm benefit questions about, hey, this might be most beneficial on those storages that are new in a landscape in a satellite situation. In those situations, it's going to be far and out of sight. So there's some pros and cons there, but I think that can be overcome with if the flare is connected and the system is connected with data monitoring, remote data monitoring. And critical with all of our projects is, in these conversations, have we kind of talked about, absolutely talked about what it's like to live with them? What's the operation and maintenance requirements to keep them operating in a way that keeps the rainwater off, keeps the rainwater collected clean and outletted in a stable manner, not right to a stream, but through some vegetation. Keeps the flare working and the cover intact, so it's actually capturing the gas. And stay tuned on this. You say operation and maintenance. That's a good thumbnail sketch of it. But we're also working with the ProDairy Dairy Environmental Systems Group on a project to really develop some nice O&M guidelines for covered and flare systems. So stay tuned on that. And similar as for the farm benefit section, we're asking you to use your professional judgment and make an assessment and a score, again, how you see fit and use then consistently, among the farms in your county, based on your professional judgment and not a direct sum of the questions. So we've reached page 6 there, and open to questions and definitely absolutely we're open to folks taking a spin for this and with it and reaching out to us with its utility, how we might make it better, and different tools that would be useful.
There's another benefit, Greg, that you have, in our case, 1.2 million gallons less manure to haul every year. If you're charged a penny a gallon where you're drag-lining it in, that's $12,000 a year savings. And your manure does definitely have higher nutrient levels to it. So you can apply less manure, cover more acres if that's what your goal is, while getting the nutrient needs for the crop. There's some more benefits that are significant when you add up the total amounts. There's by doing the 2 covers on both of our storages is one of the smarter things that we have done. Would highly recommend them.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
excellent
Greg?
experience. Yeah.
Greg, this is Brian from Cuyahoga County. Just one thought that may have been embedded in there as you go through this. I think it's an excellent sheet. It does touch on, you guys did a great job with it. When you were talking about site constraints for installation and, berm widths and exactly like the structural integrity of the storage and how it lays out. There is another factor in there is the availability of being able to have the time to retrofit inside that storage, and also the availability of time for when they're installing it, if they have other places to go with the manure. So if it's a main manure storage that gets manure all day long, every day, and they don't have a satellite or an additional storage to be able to, compensate at least a month or so of time where they're not going to be using it, you can run into some trouble when you get towards installation, as far as managing the manure during installation of that retrofits. That's just a comment.
A great comment. Thank you for that. Yeah.
go build that in. Any other thoughts, questions? I appreciate the time on the agenda here and everybody's help.
Yeah, I just want to thank all of you for working together on this, and thanks our friends, partners at Cornell. This is great work. Represents, a culmination of so many questions and discussions, that we've had over the years. And Dale, thank you also for chiming in. Brian, thank you. Dale, I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to let us know if we got this right. You've been operating a clever methane capture system, flare system for a number of years, and have been a big proponent of it. So just also, as Greg mentioned, as districts are out there having these conversations with farmers, there are going to be a lot of other things that come up, and this is, should be a fluid document, lots of room for additional notes and for changing in the future.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a process to go through to get it installed. But once it's installed, the O&M is very, very minor. And I don't know of anybody that is not glad they did it. It's a huge advantage. There's a massive difference in the smell of the farm site during all the year when you're not spreading or you're not hauling, because there's no smell coming off the storage. There's huge positives to that too. More questions, comments, anyone for Greg?
Hey, this is Brian from Cayuga again. I do personally have some questions about, as you're moving forward with developing this sheet and moving these projects forward, I definitely be interested in more of how the O&M is conducted, and I know that's going to be site by site, but, I mean, is it just, you got to walk out there with brooms and sweep stuff up, or you got to pressure wash? Like, I don't even have a good sense of how that's going to be. I mean, the project that Pete and Kirsten and Pro Dairy is working on that we installed last year, we'll be looking at that closely to see, how much time, effort, and how, how was it demanding, or do we need some new tools on the farm for something like that? So I'd be interested in more information on that. Thank you.
No, I think our bunker silo is right next to it, and it's on the windward side. So we do get debris to blow in, but it's not a significant amount. And you do get on it and walk it once a year to clean off. Because you get water on it, the debris will pool up right in certain spots, and you just got to clean them off, dump them in a 5-gallon pail with somebody up on the top with a rope, and pull them up and dump it out. Don't amount to a lot. Other than that, operation and maintenance, leaks or anything are almost very minor. Repair, we've only had 2 that are that they had to be re-welded. The flare itself is, because we have a more complicated one that is ran by solar and internet connection and everything, that has taken a little bit of extra O&M, but not massive amount. It's not a lot really for what you get for the benefit. Any other questions? All right, we're going to want to get a motion to approve this so they can move forward with it. If there are no further questions or comments. I'd like to get a motion, if we could, to approve the manure storage cover and flare assessment tool.
So moved.
And second, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll go to voting. Erica?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you, Greg, and all the others that helped participate in this.
Thank you, everyone.
There was a question by Amanda Barber on, I thought this was a draft. Do you want to have to come back, Brian, and make changes to it?
Well, I still wanted to get approval for its use in dissemination with the next round RFP. We say draft in that, it can be a fluid document, right? It can be added to. We still welcome feedback from districts, planners, and others who will be using this. And if something's significant enough to come back to the state committee at a later date, we'll do so. Otherwise, we'll incorporate those changes as we move forward with it. Greg, is that good enough explanation?
Yeah, absolutely. I consider this the beginning of a draft together, but it's a solid enough draft to hopefully not to be beneficial to folks and not waste your time.
Excellent. Next on and thanks Greg and everybody else that took part in putting all this together. Next on our agenda, voting staff advisory reports. Erica, anything today?
I don't have anything today.
Karen?
Yesterday we had our legislative days for both Farm Bureau and Soil and Water districts. An interesting thing that came up, I was speaking with one of our new legislators in Otsego County, and he brought up he's a big fan of purchasing development rights on ag land. So it's pretty common downstate and in the Hudson Valley, but we don't see it much up this way. So he wants to talk about getting a program started in Otsego County, see how it goes. So I guess we're gonna get on a conference call next week and maybe get the ball rolling with the Otsego Land Trust and just kind of see where that goes. So just something kind of interesting that came out of yesterday.
Good. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
I just want to say thank you, Darren, for that note, and certainly, we'd be interested in how things go in that regard. Jeff Keogh usually is with us, couldn't be here today, but might have had something to add to that. So keep us updated.
Yeah, I will.
Scott, you got anything to report?
No, nothing other than it was a very good day yesterday at Legislative Days. Taste of New York Monday evening was very good as well. Enjoyed it.
Excellent. Dave, you got anything to report?
No, I have nothing.
Thank you. Brian, over to you.
Okay. I'm going to run through our advisory members. If they've got anything to report, you can take your phone off mute and report to the committee, and then I'll go and ask if staff have anything to report. So starting off with Ag and Markets, Elizabeth, are you still with us? Do you have anything to report for the committee?
I am still here. I do not have anything to report.
Okay, thank you. How about Cornell Cals? Val, anything to report to the committee?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. I see Dustin Lewis has joined from CDA. Welcome, Dustin. Anything to report to the committee today?
Hey, Brian. Sorry I was a little bit late.
No worries.
We've got our annual Water Quality Symposium coming up in March, March 14th to 17th. Hope to see everybody there. I want to thank NYACD for setting up the legislative days meetings for yesterday. We had a ton of meetings. It went very well, I thought. Everybody was very receptive to the discussions. We were able to get some discussions out there on the Class C stream bill, supporting the EPF funding, and making all of our representatives aware of soil and water districts, what we do, and our desire to continue what we do in the capacity that we have, and hopefully not see any changes to district law in the near future. So I wanted to thank NYACD and please pass it along to Blanche, Scott, that we really appreciate it.
No.
Thank you very much, Dustin. I appreciate that. So looking forward to the first in-person water quality symposium since March of 2020. I know you guys have all been putting a tremendous amount of work into that. The coursework looks outstanding, and just as Dustin said, hoping to see a lot of faces there. Thank you, Dustin.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments for Dustin? Okay, I'm not sure if anyone from DEC has joined since we did our first roll call, so I'll pause to see if there is anyone from DEC and they've got anything to report. Think that was long enough pause. How about Department of Health, Paul?
Yes, hi, Brian. I had a couple of things I'd like to mention. One is, excuse me, I have a little frog in my throat. One is that the 5-year update for filtration avoidance determination for New York City watershed is being completed and adopted. That happened at the very end of December, which is we're very much hoping to get that done before the new year started, and we just made it with about 3 days to spare. The fact that our commissioner was leaving at that time was got us a little nervous since we needed a commissioner's signature on it. So I believe that was one of the last things she did before she left the department. The other thing I'd like to report, and this is really positive, is that all the ag programs in the New York City watershed are up and running after, a good, perhaps 2 years of between COVID and contract issues and audits, et cetera. Got through all that bureaucratic red tape, and everything is up and running at full steam, and everyone's very, very happy about that. I will say that on even though it was a real headache and it slowed down implementation of projects in the watershed, I will say that there were some real benefits to it in that I think the procedures they have in place for keeping track of funds and projects and all that sort of stuff is greatly improved. There's a real new focus on that sort of thing. And that in general, I think all the programs, they are being run, I think, on a more professional level. I know the meetings really run a lot more like a state committee meeting now, whereas before they tended to be a little bit like a bunch of retired farmers getting together for an afternoon. I mean, I don't mean that to say that nothing got accomplished. That's not true at all. But everything's just done on a much more business-like manner, and I think that's and I just want to even though there's no one here from the watershed listening, I just want to thank all the people that put in so much time to straighten this out, and really all the volunteers who are on the board and on the various committees who put in a lot of work, and frankly, I had to swallow a little pride in the process, but I think everyone's very happy where things are at right now, which is great. Thanks.
Paul, that's great to hear. I know Larry from Delaware was with us earlier. I'm sure you would have loved to have heard your report there and chime in as well. But thank you for that, Paul. That is really good news. Very positive to hear.
Yeah, Larry's done a great job. He really has.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, any questions or comments for Paul? Okay, Department of State, Kate.
I don't really have anything. Just of note, the Canandaigua 9-element plan is wrapping up. Probably in the next few months it'll be approved, and that the Skinny Atlas and the Oneida 9-element plans are still under development, but making good progress.
Oh, good to hear. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments for Kate?
Kate, which 9-element plan was
that's what I was gonna
wrapping
ask.
up? I missed.
Canandaigua.
Thank you.
Yep.
And you said Skinny Atlas and Oneida were in process as well?
Yep. The modeling for Skinny Atlas is making a lot of progress. Oneida is really just starting to kick off.
Great. Thank you. Okay. How about USDA, NRCS? Blake or Paula?
Hi, Brian. Blake did have to leave a little early, but he gave me some of his notes to be able to present. We do have a couple updates and sort of an informational look out for this type of opportunities. So hopefully y'all have heard about the Inflation Reduction Act, which is giving or setting aside additional funds to NRCS. Actually, over the next 5 years, NRCS nationally is going to be getting $19.5 billion. And that's to support our conservation programs, be it EQIP, RCPP, or the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, the Conservation Stewardship Program, and the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. They're also setting aside funds for that billion was going to go towards technical assistance, and about nationally 300 billion to efforts for measuring, evaluating, and quantifying carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions. The news we have for today is that NRCS received its 2023 allocation amounts for the IRA funding. And at this point, it's 2 million in EQIP and 2.3 million for CSP. And we are, I believe the announcement has gone out, or it will happen today, but March 1st is the opening for letting people know that additional funds in EQIP and CSP are available through IRA initiative conservation practice implementation. And for those of you who aren't familiar with IRA, the practices that they're looking to target or prioritize for this particular funding opportunity are those identified to yield climate change mitigation. So your cover crops, your reduced till, no-till, nutrient management, prescribed grazing, tree and shrub establishment, and wetland restoration are all sort of those conservation practice systems that they're looking to target with prioritizing practices. So again, if you do have customers interested in applying for additional funds for these types of practices, now's the time to get the application in and work with the local field offices, because if there's things that they can do to, we'll say, reduce the application period if they've already begun an application process through one of our already closed program situations. That's one of the things that that CART has been able to bring to the table, as much as it's been painful to learn. As far as a program goes, it does help streamline those next set of applications. So working with your local NRCS is going to be the first step to begin that process. I do have links to the actual list of practices if anybody's interested in those, as well as a fact sheet to IRA. I can obviously share that in the minutes. I'm not sure when the minutes come out. I could put them in the chat here as well, Brian. I'll ask you if you want me to do that.
Yeah,
But,
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it ends beginning of April, at least for the IRA first round, it's probably best if I put it in the chat here. So let's see if I can click. I'll click and talk.
Yeah, no worries. And Paula, thank you for this. And Blake and I were texting a little earlier as well. And actually, Dale and I had this conversation earlier today that, you know, if it works out for the next meeting, which will actually be, you know, still in March 21st, maybe have some dedicated time for an update on all of these programs, as well as other goings on at an NRCS. So I think there will be even more opportunity to kind of talk more about, these new funding resources, really exciting opportunities through these.
Excellent.
Yep.
And I did know, Blake was here when it was discussed, but I did note that sort of a 2022 year in review is something that you guys are interested in. So I'll find out who gets assigned to do something like that for you. But
That would be
I
great.
will pass that. I will pass that ahead. I personally, because of the way I operate, love those kind of numbers and charts, and I use something similar for our QAR or quality assurance reviews that we do with the areas annually. So I love charts anyway. I think it's great. And being able to say, this is how many miles of I don't know, miles of gasoline use on a truck we save. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, that's great. Absolutely. And if, we have got an opportunity to work together on that, I don't know when we might be able to put something out for the committee, if it's for the March meeting or a subsequent one. But, we'd be more than happy to work with whomever from NRCS to help tell the story.
Sure.
Yep.
Probably a nudge reminder because I have so much going on.
No
but-
worries at all. Yep.
So the other thing that I have to talk about is we have 2 opportunities that opened in the end of March for partnership and partnership opportunities. And the first one that most people are familiar with is the CIG grants. So any organizations that are looking to implement technology that they're kind of looking into and it's not quite proven yet, or NRCS hasn't bought into it yet, as far as like conservation practices goes, as if you're having a hard time receiving support nationally for that technology or locally for that technology, it can be studied utilizing CIG grants. And those are for activities that are outside our traditional farm bill. And so the CIG grant just opened for applying for the New York set aside that I think it opened like yesterday or late last week. And so I'm going to share with you the link to grants.gov and the actual notice of funding number, so you have something to look for. Additionally, the end of April 27th, is the deadline for the contribution agreements annual notice of funding opportunity. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that, last year was our first year of doing something like this, but opening up a competitive opportunity for partners to bring to us initiatives that they're working on that they may want to have additional funding from NRCS. We have so many common goals that bring to us that conservation work that you're looking to do, and perhaps it aligns with our goals pretty well, that we can go into agreement to be able to get those things done together in a contribution from each side. There is in the notice of opportunity a list of things that we're looking to accomplish that were maybe on our priority list, because we tend to try to give people examples of what we're looking for. But you got to apply for what works for you as well and meets our goals. So we're looking to work with partners to provide direct technical services to address water quality, soil health, wildlife, plant health, and also make technical documents that everybody can get to. So that's the April 27th contribution agreement notice of funding. So I will put that information and the link to it and the kind of a summary of each of the 2 in the chat here as well. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Except I'll see you in March in person at the symposium. I'm so excited.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Paula. That was excellent report, very thorough, and we'll make sure we get our minutes done because we've got a quick turnaround for the next meeting. But even if we don't, we'll put out a link to the meeting recording beforehand, and you know, folks can take a listen and also, you know, access those links. Thank you. Okay. I think that wraps up our advisory members. In the interest of saving a little bit of time as opposed to going down through our staff list at this point, I will just open the floor for any of the staff if they've got reports to provide to the committee. Please go right ahead.
So, Dan, I think Brian's giving you a break and not putting you on the spot in your very first meeting, but if you got something here.
No, you're right. You're right. I usually go in alphabetical order, but I wanted to give Dan some time to kind of see how it goes, and then I didn't come back to Dan. Dan, you are up, Cornell Cooperative Extension. Thank you for that.
Okay. Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Greg. I don't have a official report from Extension, but just would like to say that, you know, if any of the districts need help, you know, there's been a lot of turnover in the last few years, and without face-to-face meetings, you may not know who's in an extension office anymore. If you need help making those connections, reach out to me.
Oh, great. Thank you.
That's all I got for
No,
today.
thank you very much. Yep. And again, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And, you know, it's been a pleasure working with you over the years, you know, on certain issues around the Cuyahoga County region, and look forward to continue to work with you on those. Okay. Now we'll change to staff. Any staff reports?
Brian and everybody, Dale, just a quick one that the AIM Leopold Conservation Award announcement is out there, and look forward to all the applications like that rolled in last year. This is for the 2023 offering, and the deadline for those applications that are managed through the local soil and water conservation districts is May 27th, 2023. And if anyone's on the line who hasn't received that, just reach out to one of us on the state committee, and we'll make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Brian, this is Ron. I just want to make another announcement here on the comprehensive nutrient management planning training that is going to be held April 4th, 5th, and 6th at Cornell University. That's our AIM certified planner training, along with NRCS Level 2 CNP planner certification. Right now we have roughly 20 registrants for that program. The deadline is March 10th to register, but that's a loose deadline, and there'll be a reminder going out to districts and the private sector for those folks that might be interested in that training. And once again, that's a ongoing partnership between the State Committee, Soil and Water Conservation Districts, NRCS, Cornell University, New York State DEC, and Cornell Cooperative Extension, and other agency folks that we work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, that's great. 20 is a good number already. And with that reminder, I'm sure we'll get even more. Appreciate that.
Maybe we're going in order here.
Oh,
Should we go around the board?
yeah, might as well. I can give a couple updates. Spent a fair amount of time up north at the beginning of the year. We've got a lot of new, not only staff, which seems to be the thing in a lot of districts, but also new board members, so a fair amount of trainings going on. One thing I did notice, and maybe it's a good thing that's come out of all the conversations with district law in recent months, is that board members are paying closer attention to just existing district law, particularly things like powers and duties of directors and that section 9 that we always kind of point out to folks. There's been increased attention, closer look, more engagement from board members I've noticed, both new and veterans. So it spurred some good conversations in that there's some new programs being considered in some counties. Where can they be more efficient? What really is involved all with district law? So some good conversations have come out of that, people paying a little closer attention. I think like most folks, we're working on water quality symposium preparation and organization for some of those courses that are coming up in a couple weeks. I've noticed a big push for the second year of AEM and the Tier 4 implementation projects, so a lot of discussion on those coming around, helping people transition during the winter months here, maybe a new landowner here or there, a new project, but a big push to kind of finish those projects up. And then a fair amount of expiring grants, so making my way around the North Country as weather cooperates to kind of see some closeout projects. A lot of amendments kind of came through today, but I'm also seeing a lot of successful projects going too. So all good things, I should say. That's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Brian, thank you for that report. Appreciate it.
I guess the only thing I have to report, Brian, Dale, about has any statewide significance is the USC Upper Susquehanna Coalition has completed their contract with us for their CREP implementation and other buffer-related work that they've done. I just submitted the report, I think yesterday before I drove out here. There's quite a list of really great accomplishments written up in that report. And some of them involved the number of acres that get stewardship attention in the Upper Susquehanna River watershed, the number of acres of buffers that get implemented, how many acres they had establishment activities associated with. Of course, the New York State, the incentive payment that goes along with CREP contracts for forested buffers that are being signed up. You know, the Upper Susquehanna leads the state in buffer implementation. It's because of that agreement and those incentives, as well as a number of accomplishments that they did with their water quality program that included buffers. So that's a little taste. Lydia said that she would really welcome the opportunity to give a presentation in front of the committee, not only talk about the work that they did, that they're going to continue to do, and not just contracting directly with DEC, but also talk about the process of that money coming through Ag and Markets to them and how I think it worked for them, and they agree that that's a good process. And also to probably float some ideas that she's got in the afforestation realm. And she's got a lot of interest in farms that want to, or by farms and others, that want to plant trees, but they might not necessarily be in the stream corridor. So they want to get on top of that and feel like there's a really good opportunity given all the network that they've built over the past couple of years. So that report's available. If anybody here would like a copy of that, I could provide it. But if she can get on the agenda, Brian, at some future meeting, I think it would be really good. You know, as was mentioned, the buffers, they do rank up there in the carbon sequestration tally. So it's something, and I'm sure afforestation efforts would be the exact same. So it's a good topic, and she'd be the one to present on it.
That's great, Scott. Thank you very much. Thank you for your oversight of that project. Thank you, USC, for you know, completing such a worthy project, and certainly we'll make sure that they've got a spot on the agenda to present on those outcomes in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
For Region 2, Brian, just in addition to the regular job duties and things like that, board meetings and some trainings and annual report review and things like that, probably the biggest thing to report for the benefit of the committee and partners on the line is that the Finger Lakes cover crop implementation contract is moving forward, and Yates County is going to be the local project administrator for that. So as the contract is being assembled and executed at the state level and sent back to the district for signatures, sort of in the background, what we're doing is getting MOUs with each one of the cooperating partner districts for that program. We're going to hopefully have those signed, and we'll be able to voucher for a lot of the funding. And hopefully this spring and certainly the fall, we'll get some cover crops in, and we'll begin that project and move forward. And the interim report for that project is due at the end of March, so we'll be working on that to submit to the DEC and other partners as well. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, it's great to see that moving forward. Really appreciate Yates County for stepping up, administering that project. And PJ, again, thank you for your leadership and oversight of it. And yeah, looking forward to round 2, see what more we can do with it. All right.
Regionally, the Southeast, kind of business as usual. There are a couple new managers in the South that I've been spending a decent amount of time with, going over program things, getting them up to speed on state aid and the reporting that the whole state's been working on. State aid has taken up most of my time lately. I will say that all the districts got their reports in on time by February 15th. I've completed the Part A reports, and all that's been sent down to fiscal to be paid. So I would think districts should expect to receive that money within the next week, I would hope. And now I've moved on to the performance measures review. I've made it through some of that. I hope to be done with it probably by Monday or Tuesday of next week. If districts get an email from me, they do have three days to respond back to me with any follow-up paperwork, responses, that sort of thing, to just make sure that we have all the information needed to have those standards met completely, I guess. So I try to send the emails out.
Thank you, Ben, for that. And we did send an email out to let folks know that we started our review for Part C, correct? And, you know, again, the 3 days is to keep things moving, right? Because we've got a limited amount of time to get vouchers processed before the blackout, as it's called, where we're not able to process plan for payment for some time before the next appropriation hits. So thank you, Ben, for all of that. Certainly a ton of work. And, you know, when the time is right, next couple of months, we'll also give a report out on outcomes of the 2022 state aid year. So thank you. All right, Vic, next.
Yep, for Region 1, similar to the efforts that PJ described ongoing in the Finger Lakes, we have similar projects in the works for the Genesee River Coalition, as well as the Lake Erie Watershed Protection Alliance. Both of those programs focusing on erosion and sediment control within those basins, and we're hopeful to have those agreements in place and up and running in the very near future. Cattaraugus County is still seeking a district manager. However, they have a number of new resumes in hand that are being reviewed in preparation for their board meeting tomorrow morning. A couple new faces in the region as well, which is great to see. However, it's a little bit of a yin and yang as we see new faces come in and old faces leaving. So kind of a status quo as far as you know, overall staffing in Region 1. Other than that, regarding in Leopold, I'm hearing about a few of my counties who have interest in submitting applications this year. Western New York is eager to reclaim that title and win that award again out here, so watch out in the regions. Other than that, I'm going to be departing you all for a little bit. On Friday, I have a total knee replacement scheduled, so I'll be on sick leave next week, but hope to be battle ready real soon and back with you all in due course. So that's about it.
Victor, thank you for that report. On behalf of all of us, and we wish you well in your recovery, and you know, you'll be back on the slopes hopefully you know, soon, and no more, you know, no more swimming. No more playing in the streams anymore. That's uneven terrain. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Vic, well, thank you, and best wishes to you for sure. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that your districts are covered and you know, to support you in your recovery.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, I wanted to mention one other thing that jogged my memory. People probably know Peggy Pilch from Delaware County. She's looking at retirement, I think, in the next several months. So if you know Peggy, reach out to her while you still have the chance. A wonderful woman, of course, been around for a long time. Big cog in Team Delaware. And, you know, she's, when I spoke to her last, she had nothing but great things to say about, you know, our field, the people in it. And that she, but of course, looking forward to retirement. So I know a lot of people know Peggy. So I just wanted to let others know that she'll be retiring, I think, at the end of this month. So.
That is such an end of an era. Peggy's been wonderful. She reached out to me a little while ago to let me know and to chat a little bit, and yeah, she'll be missed, and she's had a wonderful career. Thank you for that, Scott. Okay. I see Tyler left in that room. Tyler, anything else to report?
Oh, I think I've talked enough.
All right. Well, thank you all in Syracuse. It's wonderful to see all of you together there. And Dan, again, welcome. And we'll move to the Albany office. Any other staff reports in Albany?
I think we're all good here. Thanks, Brian.
Okay. Thank you. In case I'm missing anybody else on the line, are there any other staff on the line that has a report to give? Tim?
I'm all set, I think.
Okay. So any conservation districts on the line, if they've got something to report or questions to ask of the committee, go right ahead. Take your phone off mute. Okay, any general public comments, questions, or thoughts from any of our guests today? Okay, hearing none, Dale, back to you for next meeting.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yeah, next meeting date. We're looking at March 21st. What's everybody think? Voting members.
That works for me.
Darren?
I think it works for me.
Okay. Dave? March 21st?
He had to go to the bathroom. I'll let you know as soon as he gets back.
Okay. Scott?
No worries.
Yeah, I think it'll work.
Well, we'll shoot for that then. We got enough.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So this was supposed to be our February meeting, even though it's March 1st. You know, we'll continue to hold a meeting on the third Tuesday of this month as well. I know we'll have a number of other amendments to approve, and USDA would like to give a report on all the federal opportunities, and you know, certainly we'll have no problem filling that agenda.
Okay.
And then when you're back in New York, Dale, you know, we're looking into the April months. You know, maybe we could actually do an all hands, as we like to call them. You know, where we might get together in the Utica area or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Dave, we're looking at March 21st to do another meeting. It's okay by you?
Yep, as far as I know.
All right, good, excellent.
I
All
don't
right,
think-
Brian, you want to explain how we're going to go now?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. So next on the agenda, I'll be asking for a motion to move into executive session to discuss the State Committee Executive Director position employment status. How we're going to do that today is we'll assign a breakout room for all of our voting members that are on WebEx. Of course, Darren, Erica, you're welcome just to stay right there in that room. So Abigail will assign herself to the breakout, but it'll be for both of you. And we really don't have any regular business after the executive session, so we'll motion back into the regular session essentially just to adjourn the meeting. Folks are welcome to stay on if they'd like, but you know, not necessary. We'll be adjourning right after the executive session. I think that covers it. So we'll take a few minutes, you know, a little bit of a break, few minutes to get our system in order here. And for folks in both Syracuse and in the Albany office, you know, to gather up, you know, their things. And if they want to take off, that's great. Come back, that's okay too. But like I said, we're just going to be adjourning at the conclusion of the executive session. So
I get a motion to go to executive session, please.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Voting, Erica,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Karen,
Karen stepped out of the room.
that's okay. Scott,
Aye.
approved. We'll go into executive session. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and we'll see you back in 3 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
Ah.
Okay, now we're back in regular meeting. Can't hear you, Brian.
Okay. Wow, that it automatically mutes. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, mine did too. All right, everyone, thank you very much again, and we are adjourned.
Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.